At the edge of the continent, where cliffs fall into the restless Pacific, there is a light. It doesn't shine for recognition. It doesn't blink for praise. But it has saved lives quietly, faithfully, for longer than memory allows. This light stands alone, swept by salt and storm, in a place few visit and fewer stay. And in the weathered house beside it lives a man. He has no audience, no schedule, no fanfare, just the rhythm of the sea, the howl of the wind, and the silent duty he's chosen to keep. He is the last lighthouse keeper on the Pacific coast. No one would notice if the light went out. No one would blame him. But still, every night, without fail, he climbs the stairs, checks the lens, and keeps the beam alive. Because somewhere out there, in the dark, someone might be searching for it. And to that someone, this light means everything. He is not a hero in books. He doesn't ask to be remembered. But sometimes, the ones who stand in silence shine the farthest. This is his story. The man, the house, and the light that refuses to go out. Welcome to Unsung Hands, where silent hands are finally given a voice. Here, we tell the stories that time forgot. Stories of those who work quietly behind the scenes, building the world while no one notices. Jobs that never make the headlines, but without them, nothing runs. If you believe that every life deserves to be heard, hit like to support these quiet but powerful stories. And don't forget to subscribe to Unsung Hands, so each week we can uncover another hidden chapter of the human journey together. His name was Samuel Ellis, born in 1959, raised in a small coastal town in Oregon, the kind of place where the fog rolls in before the sun even rises, where gulls scream louder than car horns, and people measure time by the tides, not the clock. He was always a quiet child, the kind who stared at the horizon longer than most, the kind who liked the sound of rain more than conversation. He didn't fit in at school, didn't chase the noise of the world, but he listened and he watched. After high school, he joined the Navy, served 12 years on ships that crossed oceans, saw ports in faraway places. He learned to fix things, to wait, to obey silence. When he came home, the land felt too loud, too fast, too full of things that didn't seem to matter anymore. So, in 1994, when a position opened at a lighthouse station just south of Port Orford, he took it. No one else had applied. The world had already started automating the lights. But this tower was still manual, still alive in the old way. And Samuel was the kind of man who understood what it meant to stay behind. The lighthouse stood on a cliff, wrapped in wind and salt. The nearest neighbor lived 8 miles inland. The only road was gravel, washed out every winter. But for Samuel, it was enough. He never married, had no children, owned no phone. He brought books, tools, a few framed photos, and an old dog named Jasper. That was the life he chose, not by accident, but by instinct. Each day, he kept the watch, not just over the sea, but over something older, quieter, something the world had long stopped noticing. The lighthouse stood alone, 72 feet tall, built in 1891, its bones made of iron and stone, its breath made of light. It sat on a narrow cliff that dropped straight into the Pacific. Waves crashed against black rock below, day and night, summer and winter. Fog curled around the base like a sleeping animal. Salt clung to every window. The wind never stopped, not even for a moment. Inside, life was simple. Samuel lived on the second floor, above the equipment room, below the lantern gallery. His quarters were small. A cot, a wood stove, a table. 3 chairs, though only one was ever used. A bookshelf lined one wall, filled with paperbacks so old their pages had curled. Mostly sea stories, mostly quiet ones. He cooked simple meals: boiled coffee, fried eggs, canned beans. Nothing fancy, just warm, just enough. He chopped wood in the mornings, even when he didn't need to. Said it helped him think. He swept the floors every Sunday, not because anyone would visit, but because the dust still came. At night, he wrote in a leather-bound journal. Neat handwriting, always in black ink. He rarely wrote about himself. Mostly weather, cloud cover, tide behavior, the shape of the waves, the way the moonlight bent through fog. At 5:40 p.m. each evening, Samuel began the climb. 39 steps to the lantern room. One hand on the rail, one lantern in his grip. He moved slowly, not from age, but from respect. He wiped the glass lens with a dry cloth, checked the wick, trimmed it if needed, adjusted the timing gears. Then, at precisely 6:02 p.m., the first rotation began. A single beam of light cutting across the fog, silent, steady, alive. Samuel always stayed for the first full sweep. He watched the light stretch far out into the dark, like a hand reaching into emptiness, searching for someone to guide. Even if no ships were near, he stayed, because keeping the light wasn't just about saving others. It was about remembering that someone still could. The light was only part of it. Most people thought that's all he did. Turn it on, turn it off, wait for ships to pass. But the work ran deeper, quieter, much more invisible. Every Sunday morning, Samuel cleared the cliff path. It was steep, rough, choked with salt-damp branches and crumbling rock. No one ever used it but him. Still, he swept it, raked it, kept it walkable, just in case. He filed weather logs once a day. Wind direction, wave height, barometric pressure, cloud type. He recorded everything in pencil first, then inked it into a government ledger. Even when no one asked for updates, even when no one came to collect the pages. Every Thursday at noon, he tested the backup horn. 3 short blasts, 1 long. The sound stretched out over the water, echoed through the cliffs, then faded. The gulls didn't like it, but Samuel said the sea did. He oiled the gears once a week, climbed into tight spaces with a wrench and a rag, checked the backup battery in case the generator failed, cleaned soot from the lantern room glass, even wiped the brass plaque no one could see unless they climbed all the way up. There were no inspections, no surprise visits, no emails, no deadlines. And yet, nothing was ever left undone. Samuel said, "You don't take care of the light because someone's watching. You take care of it because someone might need it." He swept the tower stairs every Saturday. 45 minutes, top to bottom. 1 bucket of water. 1 brush. 1 steady rhythm. No footprints ever stayed. But he cleaned them anyway. Because something about the act kept the place sacred. Most of the work was quiet, thankless, repetitive, but not empty. Not to him. Every bolt he tightened, every smudge he wiped, every log he filed was a way of saying, I'm still here. The light is still here. You're still safe. The sea kept no calendar, no birthdays, no holidays, no anniversaries. But Samuel remembered. He remembered the first night Jasper, his old dog, refused to climb the stairs. The night the stars were especially bright, the wind especially still, the silence especially loud. He carried Jasper in his arms to the top, set him down beside the lantern, let the old dog sleep there. One last time. He remembered a storm in 2003, the kind that cracked trees in half, that shook the tower until bolts screamed, that blacked out everything, even the moon. He stayed in the lantern room for 17 hours, holding a flashlight against the glass, turning the gears by hand when the motor died. There were no ships in the storm, but he kept the light moving anyway, because you never know who's watching or who's depending on you without saying a word. Once, he found a lifeboat washed ashore, split open at the side. No oars, no flag, no name. Inside, a child's shoe, a broken compass, an empty water bottle with Korean writing on the label. He dragged the boat up to the edge of the cliff, tied it to a fence post, left it there untouched. When asked why, he said, "Some things don't need to be explained. They just need not to be forgotten." He spoke to the sea sometimes. Not loud, not crazy, just softly. At dusk, when the sky turned the color of worn copper, he asked the sea questions, told it stories. Saturday in silence, when there were no answers. Maybe the sea listened, maybe it didn't. But the ritual mattered, because rituals are how we survive what cannot be named. The sea gave him no comfort, but it gave him something else. Honesty, the kind of truth that doesn't need words. That just is. Samuel knew loneliness, but he also knew stillness, and he had long made peace with the difference between the two. In the spring of 2017, a letter came in the monthly supply crate. Typed, stamped, signed with a name Samuel didn't recognize. It said the light would be automated, the tower decommissioned, his post retired. The words were polite, final, cold. They offered him a pension, an apartment in town, a plaque with his years of service engraved. He declined them all. For the next 3 weeks, he said nothing to no one. But every evening, he still climbed the stairs, still trimmed the wick, still polished the lens, still watched the beam sweep across the water, just like always. On his final night, there were no speeches, no cameras, no goodbyes, just wind and waves. And one man, standing at the top of a tower built before anyone remembered his name, he lit the lamp by hand, watched it catch, watched it glow, watched it turn. He stayed there, leaning against the cold metal rail, for 3 full rotations, then 4, then 5. He didn't cry, didn't speak, just watched the light disappear into the mist, then return again, like it always had, like it always would. At dawn, he left a note in the logbook, 7 words. Nothing more. The light is still on. That's all that matters. No one knows exactly when he left. Some say he stayed for a few extra nights. Others think he never really left at all. The tower was found empty, clean, swept. His books were gone. His coat was missing. Only one item remained: a framed photo of him and Jasper, taken beside the lantern room window, with the sea behind them, gray, wild, eternal. The light still shines every night, but now it spins on schedule, runs on a timer, turns without a hand. Still, for some reason, some say the beam feels warmer when it passes overhead, a little steadier, a little more human, as if someone out there is still keeping watch.